Hello, hello. Just like last ranked season, I'll be featuring a bunch of different games featuring different ships and how to perform in them or how to hopefully adequately carry your team to a victory in this. Now, I'm starting off with a very popular choice this season, which is, of course, the Arizona. The Arizona is one of the ships that I recommended. I don't think it's the top choice, simply because, unlike the Warspite, it lacks the power to punch through and overmatch any sort of angled ships, and it lacks the pinpoint guns of the Arizona. I mean, sorry, of the Warspite. But the Arizona, almost everyone has it, and it's very easy to put a captain on it. It has 12 guns, so overall a very popular choice. It also has a very strong torpedo belt at 39%, which means it can eat more torps than pretty much any other tier 6 battleship. So a very strong pick, and very, if you have any US battleships, you can easily just put one of your captains on it and you're good to go. This is, however, on my American account, and I don't really have any US captains I can use on it, but I did have a 12-point captain for this guy, so I built into my very basic build, which I consider the most important things to get, especially for lower tiers of ranked, or well, I guess higher ranks of ranked. I have no idea how to say that, so it doesn't sound confusing. But basically, the higher you get in ranked, the closer you get to rank 1, the more the smoke meta will become prevalent, and the less important things like concealment expert on battleships will be. Whereas at these ranks I'm here, I think this is somewhere between, I think, rank 12, 11, something like that. I can't remember, I'm not 100% certain. But around these ranks, it's not as important to have that smoke, and it's more important to have your own concealment to be able to disengage when you need. Now, first of all, on this map I prefer going to A from the south spawn, because there's a large open gap you can push through, and usually when you go for B on this map, your teammates tend to use it as an excuse to hide behind the islands and be as useless as possible, and you can't really afford that. You have to kind of push in and help. Important thing to note is the more aggressive you are pushing into the A cap on this map, the more you force the pressure on the enemy team to push in as well. Because if they don't, if they hide behind the islands, if they reverse like this guy is doing, I decided to switch to the Fuso at the last second. I'm not entirely certain if it was the best choice, because the Cleveland was giving me broadside, but he was also making a full turn. I don't know, either one might have been good. But ultimately I decided to take the bigger threat, which was the Fuso at the moment, since the Cleveland was already disengaging and he was out of range. Ultimately it might have been better to try to punish the Cleveland in this case. Still though, I want to keep pushing, and I want to discourage their cruisers from pushing in. You exert a lot of presence in a battleship, and that's the thing. If you push in like I do here, you push into the cap. Well, none of the cruisers can really push in, can they? Because if the cruisers push in, the Arizona has this huge threat of deleting any cruiser that shows itself. So that scares the hell out of them, and they are forced to turn away, as you saw that other Cleveland do. And this Cleveland here, he's in fact stopped, and he's trying to reverse to get back in cover, get back behind the island. Shinonome even smoked up because he was afraid of incoming volleys, and I can use this smoke to my advantage. And this Cleveland that's reversing, trying to get into cover, well, I'll be able to punish him probably without being spotted. Yeah, I wasn't even spotted shooting at him. That's of course a mistake from the Clevelands. They should be running their fighter planes to increase the spotting. I get an okay volley there. Actually, I do 16,000 damage to that Cleveland, so he is very low at this point, and the Fuso finishes him off with the next volley. So that's kind of the kind of things that happen when you force the enemy to make choices they don't want to make. And I don't want to, you see how passive our Fuso is playing? I don't want to reverse as far back as he is. I don't want to play as passive as he is, because I want to keep the pressure up. I want to keep exerting this influence. And if I retreat behind this island, then we have no more influence. And like the one ships that can hide behind this island and can play it safer are the cruisers. I'm perfectly okay with this, but us battleships, I'm willing to even tank some damage just to make sure I'm not playing too passive here. And this is something that is very hard for your average battleship player to learn, when it's okay to just take some damage. Yes, you see I'm eating a ton of damage here. I am being focused and shot at and whatever, but that's because I need to get into the battle itself. And I'm instantly able to punish a cruiser because of this. A cruiser thought he could get into cover. So I trade a lot of my own health for a lot of damage done on a Cleveland. And ultimately this is of course a great trade because I can heal. The Cleveland cannot. And like optimally DDs would smoke you up, but don't count on it. Don't count on it. This guy is smoking, so well done Dayfanor, this DD. But in general, until you get to the higher ranks, don't count on your DDs smoking you up. Really unlucky volley on the Gnevny there. But doing damage to DDs is incredibly important, and it's always worth going for it. Is this Gnevny gonna keep sailing? If he keeps sailing, then I'm gonna shoot him again. Now the big downside, of course, of the Arizona is the massively long reload. The reload takes absolutely ages, but the 12 guns tend to make up for it, although my accuracy wasn't the most encouraging there, and that's unfortunate. Our Fubuki decided to chase the enemy Shinonome, which is of course never a good choice. My next volley is really good on the Gnevny and really cripples him, which helps us a lot. The issue here is that, well, one of my Clevelands decided to go south of B. Now the problem with going south of B is that, well, they are all able to shoot him while ignoring us, because he's all alone. Whereas if the Cleveland had been playing with us, then the enemy would have had to basically shoot past us to even hit the Cleveland, and bringing broadside to bear to shoot the Cleveland would have meant they would have exposed themselves to us in return. So in general, when you go solo in a cruiser, you should only do it if you got access to smoke, if you got access to cover, and so forth. But if you're in the open, as these guys are, or as that guy was, then it's never worth it, because battleships can just keep target practicing against you all game. And at this point we are in some serious trouble. We are down 4 ships against 6. I'm gonna see though if I can maybe finish off this Cleveland, because we could really use the points at this point, and I really don't want this Cleveland to be able to find some good position behind an island where he can just spam us, especially since we're down a DD. And my volley manages to finish him off, so that was good. So our worst point is telling us to push B now, which makes no sense. I don't recommend that at all, because we got 2 DDs who will be pushing A and capping it behind us. In fact, we need to defend this cap right now. The Shinonome, I think, is being a bit too greedy. I get a okay volley with 6 hits on him. He's down to 1.8k. He does smoke up, but very late reaction from him. I call target on him. I hope all my ships would shoot at him, but it appears no one else had their guns turned or were ready to do this. I'm trying to eat this torp on the belt, not on the nose. If I eat it on the belt, you see it only does 8.4k. The belt is very strong on the Arizona, and if you're forced to eat torps like that one, make sure you take it on the torpedo belt to minimize the damage. Now I can't run away. I absolutely can't run away from this cap, because if I leave this cap, we are screwed. I go for the blind shots, just hoping I can hit this Shinonome, even though it means I get spotted, because we absolutely need to get rid of this dude. I even pop my spotter plane, because the spotter plane might spot the Gnevny if he's trying to flank, and it also might spot torps, it might spot him if he tries to go around. Overall, I really need to get rid of him. The Fuso though goes for a blind shot into the smoke and manages to nail him. He only had 1.8k left, so that makes life a lot easier. So now we've narrowed it down to a 4 versus 4, and their battleships are going for some sort of flank push through the spawn, which is weird. Too high, aim too high, only got overpens. That's something I really need to work on. That's one of my personal flaws, is when I use the spotter plane, I consistently aim too high, and even when I try to compensate, that happens. Gnevny is pushing around the flank. My spotter plane, which I popped for this sole reason, does in fact see him, and he shoots it down, but he already gives me the information I need. Now turret traverse on the Arizona is so damn slow that I decide, instead of pushing forward and being basically crossfired by the Gnevny and all the battleships, I do a full turn of my ship to turn my guns around. Sometimes it's literally faster to turn your entire ship around than it is to turn your turrets around, and this is one of those cases. And here, when I turn my ship around to shoot this Gnevny, I'm also able to angle away from all these battleships that want to shoot me. So you see I'm angling away if you look at the minimap. The more I turn, the more angled I get. So the damage they do is very minimal. And I pop another heal to keep myself healthy. Gnevny is popping smoke, but he really needs to slow down to make use of it. This is something I see often, and it always baffles me. DDs that spoke but then keep moving. That's not worth it. That should be a dead Gnevny. And I do kill him off as well. So both their DDs are dead, and at this point, since there's no one in nearby, no secondaries, no ships within secondary range, no chance of any sort of torps, HE, whatever, I use my repair to minimize and mitigate the damage I'll take. And at this point, what looked like a pretty much lost game has been turned completely around. You note pretty much this entire game, my positioning has been in A. I sailed into A at the start of the game, and that's where I've been sailing around all game. And that's all you need to do. That's if you push into your own cap and you hold that cap, you are most likely playing your battleship very, very well. Literally, that's how simple it is. Because you have such a central positioning, especially on a map like this. This middle control is so important. And it makes it so hard for the enemy to push, it makes it so hard for the enemy to exert any sort of influence, and you are such a help for your team by just sitting there in the middle. A game ends, 98k damage, perhaps not the highest, but once again, getting high caliber and Confederate in ranked means you did a lot of damage to everyone, and of course Dreadnought means you also tanked a lot of damage. 2 kills, not perhaps the most impressive, but I think what was more important in this game was the positioning. I was ranked 13 in this game, so around the 10 to 15 bracket then. And of course the XP rewards show us exactly why, and why I got so much XP for this game. And if you move on to the detailed report, we can look at my potential damage, 1.8 million. There was so much shells being shot my way. I tanked a total of 71k damage. So many shells in only an 11-minute game. And that's because I had such a very, very central positioning the entire time. I was never too far away. I was never really overextended. All I did was play around my own capture point. And that's really, for a new player in ranked, a new battleship player in ranked, that is really the simplest way to be effective, is you play around your own capture point. You don't push too heavily into the enemy capture point. You don't sail too far back from your own capture point. You just play around your own part of the map, so to say. And I mean, of course there are exceptions. You take a lot of damage, you're being heavily focused, and if you don't get any smoke from DDs, you don't have DDs, whatever, then you hide behind an island or something. But try to avoid sailing to the corners of the map, and basically it's even worse to sail so far away that you have you're not able to bring any sort of gunpowder to bear, and you're not able to tank anything either. In fact, if you happen to die, but you draw so much attention to yourself and it takes the enemy so much effort and so much time to kill you, it might even be better than surviving, simply because the enemy has to focus so much on you that the entire time they're focusing on you, your team can basically kill them off. Because burning down a battleship that's angled and fleeing and in any way trying to avoid damage as much as possible can be quite hard. So basically try to use your health pool to maximize the impact you have as much as possible. And by that I don't mean try to save it by sitting in the back, but try to use it, as in actually, yes please, feel free to shoot me, I don't give a shit, I'm a battleship. Anyway, the game ends. I'm using my standard build, but I might as well show it real fast since it's a pretty standard US battleship build, but I found it works very well for ranked as well. Right, starting off, module wise on the Arizona, premium repair, premium heal. You should get both of these, especially if you're going to play ranked, and considering you're playing a premium ship, you should have no issues affording it. Upgrade wise, you don't want to be losing turrets. Main armaments mod 1, main gun range, not enough carriers to justify going AA guns, and damage control 1, and I actually prefer rudder shift because of all the torpedoes and all the crap I face in general in ranked. In fact, normally I would go damage control. In fact, on the Russian server where I'm higher ranked, aka worse rank, I actually use damage control. But on NA, where well, in general, as you get higher up in the ranks this season, there's less and less cruisers, because cruisers are much harder to play, which means there's of course much less HE spam as well, which means that having better maneuverability to dodge the torps, which you will pretty much face on every single tier, is more important than reducing that fire by 15%, especially since the ship already handles quite well. Looking at captain perks, I actually been experimenting with priority target on NA and both on Russia, simply because a lot of DDs don't understand that when you target someone with priority target, it's kind of like giving them a warning that you're about to torp, and I've been using this quite effectively against them. But honestly, priority target, preventive maintenance, and even the additional spotter plane, either of these perks are a good choice for the first one. But if you pay as meticulous attention as I do to the priority target, you might want to use it against them the way I do. A second perk, Expert Marksman. Your turret traverse is abysmal. In fact, even with Expert Marksman, it's still faster to turn your ship around, as I did against the Gnevny. So absolutely get Expert Marksman, follow it up with Superintendent for an additional heal, follow it up with Concealment Expert, and you get that incredible stealth of 12 kn, which is very, very useful. And then you can get Adrenaline Rush. Once you have Adrenaline Rush, at this point you see fire prevention is great. Absolutely great to mitigate the HE spam. But honestly, I don't think I've really seen enough cruisers to justify this. It's good, but is it really necessary in the current state of rank? I think you might get more bang for your buck with Vigilance to be able to dodge those torps more consistently, since fires are not nearly as big of a risk as the torps are. Either one, ultimately though, if you have a full point captain, you'll want to get both Vigilance and fire prevention, both of them. In fact, let's see, we got 12, this makes 15, yeah, and this makes 19. So that would of course be my full build, getting both of these perks. But which one you choose and in which order is entirely up to you. As for flags, for ranked, I mean, the priority ones are absolutely the heal and the reduction in fire damage taken. Then you can follow it up with November Foxtrot, faster reload on consumables, and then you can, if you want, you can buff your speed, secondaries, AA in case that's an issue, or you can just buff your money and XP like I do, since I think these are enough at this rank. I don't feel like wasting my speed flags yet. But that is entirely up to you. Anyway, that was my Arizona ranked commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.